Was you report about staff already? No. So you should cover this.
Good evening. I hereby call this regular meeting of Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that the quorum is present and the notice of this meeting was posted as required by Texas Open Meeting Act. Board members Mr. James Montoya and Reverend Callie Pitcock are unable to be in attendance. Please remember that the items do not have to be taken in order as it has been listed. Thank you for joining us, and I ask to turn your cell phones to the silent mode, please. Okay. At this time, the board will conduct an executive closed session to discuss items posted on our agenda pursuant to a following provision of Texas Open Meeting Act and as allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in a closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as the result of discussions would be in closed session, will be taking place in the open session. The time right now is 5:01. Good evening. The board is now reconvening into open session, and time is 6 o'clock. Please remember that items do not have to be taken in order as it has been listed. We ask you to please turn your cell phone to the silent mode. At this time, I ask Reverend Irvin to give tonight's invocation, please.
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Father, we're so thankful that you've blessed us to come out tonight and to consider the affairs of this district. We ask that you would guide our thoughts, that the decisions we make will serve to give you glory and honor. This we ask in the name of Christ. Amen. Amen.
And at this time, pledge us to the flags. Dr. Groman will lead us through.
If you please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, we have superintendent's report and announcements.
Coach Rashid and board, my goodness gracious, summers has went by fast. I say that because a little less than 3 weeks, we will have students back on our campuses for the first day of school on August 14th. And yes, there's plenty to do to make all of that happen. On Thursday, next week, all of our teachers will be on campus. Our new teachers will have a couple of days of orientation while the returning teachers get back to the swing of things in their classrooms. One of the first things that will take place on Wednesday, July 31st, at all of our campuses is our athletic director, Coach Darby House, in the back. If you wave everybody. We'll have some of the high school student athletes at every one of our campuses that morning to help and welcome our new teachers and help them unload their vehicles and carry some of the heavy stuff into their new classrooms, some of the excitement. So thank you for that, Coach, for doing that. Dr. Kimberly Welch, who's not with us this evening, this was one of the great ideas that our team has come up with, and our assistant principals have been coordinating all the details so new teachers can get a little bit of help as they're moving into their classroom. So thank you for that. We'll have convocation on Friday, August the 9th at the high school gym. The board members will have some information for you in the coming days about where to park and where you'll sit. Convocation is at 10 a.m. that morning, and once we're finished, everyone will move out into the horseshoe right in front of the high school where the community members will be grilling burgers for lunch for all of our staff. We did this last year, and we're grateful for everyone's participation. Everyone who volunteered wanted to come back and do it another year. So we thank our community partners that come out, and hopefully we'll have some nice weather. It won't be this hot or too rainy, but we're excited about that. We've got some people hired for key positions around the district. Kevin Croft is our high school principal. I'm trying to look, there he is. He's out here in the audience. Welcome, Mr. Croft. And Ms. Stamper, right here, waving eagerly. She's right there. We want to welcome her as well. And the Director of Student Nutrition. And we hope to have our new CFO at hand beginning on August the 1st. He's currently wrapping up his current district, and he'll be coming in and joining us here in Nacogdoches. These are important positions around our district that we've had to fill this summer, and we've gotten excellent people stepping into those roles, and they'll have to be on top of the game because they're replacing outstanding individuals who left the district to embark on other ventures. So with that, President Fashid and Board, that's all my information.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this portion, we're in a public comment, and we have one person requested to address the board, Mr. John Kenning, my good friend and former classmate, actually. Mr. Kenning, per law, I'll give you 3 minutes, and Mr. Harold Whitaker will take that.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board, directors, the administrators, and staff members for giving me this opportunity to present to you. Solid Foundation is a faith-based United Way partner agency that provides supplemental educational experience for at-risk youth, students and that are challenged and to motivate them towards spiritual development, academic achievement, and personal success. through tutoring, mentoring, and enrichment. We operate Monday to Thursdays after school. What I'm here to do is to talk to you a little bit about the rollout. We're rolling out a new product, and that is, we've just created a mobile learning center, which will roll out on Fridays and Saturdays in the neighborhood communities. And we'll do so starting, it is for the fall semester, on the weekends, on Fridays and Saturdays. Each of you should have a copy. If you don't, it's somewhere at the back there. Just please take a copy of this. It'll tell you a little bit of those people who were involved in making this happen. And just really quickly, I think I still have a couple of minutes. Solid Foundation has been involved here in Nacogdoches for the last 29 years. That's as long as I've been doing it. And we've been serving the Nacogdoches community, not just the community, the students here in Nacogdoches from first grade all the way through 12th grade. We've seen many successes, and we hope to continue doing so. We hope to continue making that contribution to the NISD community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doing a great
Also,
job.
I just wanted to really, you will also have a flyer of some of the things we've done this summer with our kids, the NISD school system kids. So you can take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're moving on to consent agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, all items listed will be acted on with one motion. If there is a board member who wishes to discuss an item in a consent agenda separately, please indicate the agenda letter, and it will be set aside for further discussion and a separate vote. Board, are there any questions concerning any of those agendas? If not, I'll take a motion.
I so move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. Reverend Irvin made a motion, and Ms. Winslow, second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, we're moving on to discussion and action agendas. We have 3 items to discuss and take a action portion. First, there is no additional action resulting from executive closed session. Item B is discuss and possible action to approve Ideal Impact Services agreements. Dr. Daya Hill, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you, President Nuriman, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Trujillo. I would like to introduce a couple of people to join me at the podium from Ideal Impact. We have Wes McDaniel, who is our CEO of Ideal Impact. We have Jesse Aguilera is going to be here. And then if I could also ask Mr. LaRue to join us, as well as Reggie Hudson, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, distinguished president, board members, and superintendent. Real quick, who we are, this Ideal Impact. I always tell people I'm like the least talented human you ever met. I can't sing, dance, draw, do sports very well, can't do lots of things, but through God's grace, the things I do is teach God's word and grow people and grow companies and know a lot about energy. So my last startup had grown really big across 6 nations, and we'd sold it to a bigger company, and in 2009 I told my wife, I said, I really felt like God wanted me to step out in faith and give back. And and so that's where we started from, with the first focus of creating $1 billion for Christian ministry. And we were able to do that. And then working with over 700 churches across Texas. In 2015, we set another group that does really good work that we'd love to help as school districts. I've done prison ministry since 1995 and a lot of youth prison ministry. I feel like every dollar we put back in schools is a big deal. So we said if we could put dollars back into schools the same way we did with ministries, they could use it well and use it much better than going to the electric company and gas company. So that's what we did. And at this stage, we're working with over 225 school districts. What we've done there, we'll put over $900 million back in those school districts. So total, all that, over $1.9 billion in the ministries and schools in Texas. And you can see all the dots, all the blue dots are school districts, and the red dots are churches, which kind of just, we put those on last, I guess. We probably might should have put them in a different order. They totally cover up Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston and stuff. And in the process, one of the things we do too is we try to make it more comfortable. We do a lot to pull humidity out of buildings. And as you do that, it becomes more comfortable. You solve a whole lot of problems like mold and mildew and stuff. And a good example up there, we did Franklin ISD a few years ago. And Franklin, of course, is just this side of College Station. And as we went in there, they'd been optimized by one of the big companies, and we're paying them a lot of money every year to stay optimized. And we went in there, and we started first with the high school. We were starting that project in late August. The school was in session. When school's in session, we always work after hours so we don't interfere with classrooms. And we finished the high school, and a group of teachers stayed to wait for our team to show up on the next building. And they said, we just want to say thank you. They said, our building is more comfortable than it's ever been. We don't know how you make it more comfortable and save energy. But as you pull humidity down, it makes such a difference. In the high school alone there, we actually pulled the electricity use down 66%. And the electric company sent someone out to check the meters because they're sure something was with the meters. And we get that a lot. And one other quick story just on the humidity side. One of our projects was a big Bible church in Fort Worth. And as we went in there, we'd done the audit. We do a free audit. We did the audit end of April, presented in early May, and they said, what are you going to do about our sanctuary? And I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, our sanctuary can't even hold temperature in April. They were having to subcool it to low 60s before the first service. They had 3 big services back to back. They were subcooling to low 60s for the first service to be below 80 by the end of the third service, even in April. And they said, we're about to spend $100 grand. We're going to add a chiller and some air handling units. And I said, your problem's humidity. And they said, no, we've had all the experts out. We've had a consulting engineer. We've had multiple contractors. And I said, can you give me 6 weeks? And they said, no, we got to make these improvements. I said, I really want to do it without you spending money. And they said, well, you're a Class A mechanical contractor. Why don't we spend the money with you? And I said, I don't want your $100 grand. I want you to keep it. And they think I'm arguing the wrong side of the table when I say that. But I said, give me 6 weeks. So we started in late May. 6 weeks, of course, puts us in mid-July. And you know how much hotter Fort Worth, Texas is in July than it was in April. And they could hold temperature through all 3 services. We took KWH of the meter from 319,000 the year before to 167,000 KWH. And the electric company sent someone out to check the meters. You know, by August, we pulled them down to 102,000. And anyway, that's what we do, is put money back that way. And like I said, a lot of focus on humidity. These are 4 examples of school districts in Texas. And obviously, we could show you lots of them, but Louise and Frere had just spent several $1 million a few years before to replace chillers and boilers and lights and controls and everything. And they got them down to 44.8 thousand BTUs per square foot. BTUs per square foot is total energy use. And Frere to about 48. And, you know, those companies say about 45,000 BTUs a square foot is about the best you can get. And we took them down to the 20s. Calhoun County was so low that they said people would come in and just shake their head and say there's no more savings. And obviously, you can see we took them from 36 to 26. And Kennedale up in Dallas, Fort Worth, was the lowest we've ever seen starting. And we still took them down quite a bit. So what we've done here, we've been through all your bills, all your buildings, looked at all the equipment, looked at everything. And here's what your bills look like. And one of the things you see, this is fairly standard in the developed world. I don't care if we're in Sweden, Germany, United States, Texas, whatever. The yellow up there is consumption of electricity, how much you use. In non-residential buildings, you also pay for demand, and demand is based on 15-minute periods. And y'all actually have 3 periods that I'll hit in a minute, but the demand is the kind of the blue, red, purple. The green's natural gas. But the demand here is 50% of your total bill based on 15-minute periods. And so getting control of that is a big deal. In addition to that, in 2011, the state legislature in Texas passed a law that said if you're a nonprofit entity, which obviously you are, and you can keep your annual load factor below 25%, which that's equation is total kWh on a meter, total electricity used over a calendar year, divided by 8,760 times the top 15 minutes. If that's below 0.25, the red part of the demand there drops from about $5.89 to about 50 cents, which is a lot. And where it matters is where the red's above the blue. And these are your actual numbers, of course, but, and you know, you got some of it that's below that, some is above. Every school district we've done, within a year, we have them on that cheaper rate. And we don't even count that savings. That's gravy to y'all. The purple up, the blue up there is the top 15 minutes of the year. The red is the higher of your top 15 minutes, sorry, the blue is the top 15 minutes of the month. The red's the higher of the top 15 minutes of the month, or 80% of your highest you ever did in the last year. And then the purple is called 4CP, and it's based on whatever 15 minutes ERCOT peaks the grid across Texas in the months of June and July and August and September. So whatever months they peak at that 15-minute period, let's just say it's July 30th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then the next year you pay the average of what you are for those 4 months at the same time ERCOT peaked, and that's the purple part of the bill. And so controlling it well is a big deal. Yesterday, I met with the chairman of government affairs of ERCOT, and he was wanting to meet with us because he saw how much we pulled that down in so many different places, in so many school districts, and the impact it was having. So anyway, here's where you're starting. You're starting really good, 44.8. Y'all have done a good job. You've got a good group that's doing a good job of managing energy use. But our goal is to take you down below 30, with 29.9, and realistically below that. There's no reason you can't get down to where like Calhoun County is, or really even Kennedale. You know, and here's what your numbers look like. We use, we actually use 2 savings. We call them basic and committed. Basic's about a B- level of achievement, committed's an A-. So the goal is beat committed. It's not to be between the two. So we'd like to save you more than $317,000 a year. The net 15-year assumes 7% inflation. I don't know what your inflation is going to be any better than anybody else, but I think it's going to be higher than that, really. So it should put about $6.7 million back in your school district, which is a big deal. And if you look at that, what most clients do is they pay for this what we call 80-20. We just started this with ministries years ago and said, let's do this with school districts too, where they don't have to come up with any money. So we take all the risk. If you're at committed savings, you'd pay, or whatever your savings are, you'd pay 80% of your savings till the project's paid back, and 80% of committed is $254,000 a year. And so at that rate, you know, you're looking at 5-point-something years to be paid back. You're keeping 20% of the savings in that time, and you're keeping all the additional savings. You can imagine as we pull KWH down that much, what that does to the lifetime of HVAC equipment. Compressors last longer. You know, the other thing you see is a lot of school districts struggle with humidity and comfort, and some with mold and mildew. And I don't ever name anybody that has mold and mildew problems because it's sensitive. But we had one district not far from here, and the facility director had been there 27 years. And he said after we were there, the next summer was the first summer that he ever had that he didn't have to do any mold remediation at the end of the summer. And that's a big difference. So additional savings, you know, also we all know it's way easier to cool dry air than wet air. So as you pull humidity down, units are working less hard in August and September, which is when most compressors fail. And so there's a whole lot of additional savings. The savings of getting you to that lower rate, we don't count. That's just additional savings for you. There's a couple of buildings here that we're doing that we aren't even tracking the savings on to, so you get all the savings on those. So quite a bit more than the 20%. So the net, we should put about $6.7 million back in your district. That's the goal. And, you know, what we're doing, I mean, the first statement's rhetorical. We've got some of the top energy fellows in the world. When I started this, first year I felt like God was calling me to cap salaries at $20,000 a year. And I said, okay, I'll do that, but that's going to mean I'm the only employee because nobody's coming to work for 20 grand a year. And we ended up, God brought some of the top energy fellows in the world that became part of this, and which is really just humbling to see and be part of. And as we got into the first buildings, we looked at it and we said, you know, there's just technologies that don't exist that need to be invented. The next year we raised the cap to 30,000, you know, but anyway, we've done thousands of buildings across Texas with Ideal Impact. Our core team's done many thousands across the world. The biggest I ever did was Rockefeller Center, actually, which is not just the central tower, but all 9 towers there, all 9 city blocks. So here we're going to start out control-wise. Y'all have done a lot of good stuff already. You've got a good control system in, but there's a few units that are on it. We would actually put those on controllers. But we're going to go through and modify the software and modify some of the controls on the ones you've got to make them much more efficient than they are now. We've invented over 300 new technologies at this stage. We do a lot here to actually, you know, pull down the cost too there, you know, as we do that. And we always tell everybody, if you're looking at building any new buildings, run them by us. We don't do new construction work. We don't do the remodel works there that are plans and specs. But I'd way rather look at the plans and specs and suggest changes before you do it that would save you a lot of money. I'd rather you build a building that we don't need to modify. And so that's a free service we do with all of our clients and makes a big difference. We do a lot to pull down humidity, which obviously improves indoor air quality. Everywhere we go, they have places that they say, this place can't be fixed. Humidity is always going to be a problem here, or comfort's always going to be a problem. Many times we can fix those. This is a big deal. One of the things our team does is go through every piece of HVAC equipment, which you've got 942 pieces. And they're going through those and they're optimizing those from an energy standpoint. And they tend to solve so many problems as they do that. And like I said, we do all this with our own forces because we can control quality better that way. And then controls, I've talked about zoning. I haven't been anywhere yet that doesn't have some zoning issues, and many times we can fix those. Weatherization, we do full weatherization on all the buildings, which is reducing infiltration of outside air because outside air is leaking in. That brings in cold and hot and humid. Campus Optimizer is a big deal, and it's really a big part of the guts of this. It's software we've developed and it's patented. Right now, your team's trying to manage temperature and comfort and across 942 pieces of equipment. We didn't count the rooms, but you got more rooms than equipment, so probably a lot more than 1,000. And more events and rooms, because events a teacher in the classroom or game or practice or whatever. And that's a big job, just trying to manage that with everything that's going on in the school district. And obviously also you want to reduce electricity use as much as you can. You want to pull down that annual load factor. And it's something that, even if you have a math genius running your system, it can't be done. There's too many variables. You know, pull down the amount of natural gas use, pull down that top 15 minutes a month of demand. And again, you could have several math geniuses by now. It's just too many variables. And then the top 15 minutes a year, and then also figuring out when ERCOT's going to peak in each of the months so that you can pull it down at that peak. And, you know, which is a big deal. Improving relative humidity, improving indoor air quality. To do it well, you need to know the ramp times of every room in the district, how fast it cools down if it's 80 outside, or 85 or 90 or 95, or how fast it warms up if it's 60 or 55 or 50. And every room's different. A room facing east is totally different than one facing west. And a gym's different than a classroom, than a meeting room. And there's nobody that can remember all those. And then I've lived in Texas all my life. The weather's nuts. And that's not changing. I live part of the time on the Gulf Coast and part of the time in Dallas, Fort Worth, but like I said, the weather's nuts. We'll see 40 degrees one morning, and we'll see 80 the next afternoon. And ideally, every time it swings, people are going through and adjusting all your mechanical stuff to be ideal for the new one. And again, you can't do it, too many choices. And you've got multiple meters, and you've got multiple rate schedules on those meters. But that's what Campus Optimizer does. It's set up where every night it can pull in the latest schedule from all the buildings in the district. And if you have the change through the day, which happens, you can do the same thing with 3 mouse clicks. So it pulls in the latest schedule. The next thing it does, it pulls in the next 7-day weather forecast, all the highs and lows each day. Then it runs a 20-level mathematical matrix for every room and every weather pattern that's coming up and every piece of equipment and every building and meter. And then it sends all those changes out into the controllers. The other night, we looked at it a couple of weeks ago in Capel ISD, and of course, we're in the summer, there's not as much going on right now, but just that, from pulling down that schedule and making all these changes, it made 1,200 changes to the HVAC equipment in 3 minutes to be ready for the next morning. And again, a person can't do that. And then we go through it, and we document everything. I haven't seen a district yet that has everything documented perfectly. And then we start training with the first project meeting, and we train first with key people in the district. But one thing we love to do is go to an in-service. We don't do homes, but my home's 2,500 square feet. I live in Grapevine, Texas. And my electric bill, 7 months a year, is $50-something or less. And most people are paying more than that for electricity. And so what we like to do is just, again, we don't charge for it, it's free, and you don't have to let us do it. It's just, we feel like it's a gift back to the community. We've had districts even do a community night and invite anybody that wants to come. But just to go in and say, here's some easy, cheap things you can do for your home to pull down your electric bill a lot. Because we feel like if we can go in and do ways that pull down teachers' electric bills $400 or $500 a year, that's a big deal. And it adds up. And like I said, I've seen some districts do a community night. My daughter was a state swimmer, and I was at a state swim meet a few years ago, and talking to this lady sitting next to me, and it turned out she was a teacher. And she said this coolest company came in, and she said they just started just bubbling away about what they taught her about managing electricity better in her home and improving humidity and everything. And she said, it's made so much difference. She said, and they're called Ideal Impact. And I said, I work for them. And I jumped about this high in her eyes. But a lot of the churches we've done have done community nights too, because it makes such a difference with their people. Anyway, then we have a coach throughout the deal. Most people continue the coaching going and the Simple Comfort Connect afterwards. And I tell everybody, decide on your own if you want to do that or not. We include that and all the upgrades for free during the course of the agreement, and then afterwards, if you want to continue that, it's about $1,800 a month, but that's way less than you're saving. But if it's not a value, don't. That includes advice on new things, new buildings or reconstructions. It includes watching for rebates that you can get from your electric company. The agreement's real simple. We cover all the costs. Each month, you send us your bills. We can get your bills online. But we adjust for weather changes, because weather's a little different each year. I always hope next summer's cooler than last summer. Sometimes it is. And then we always use your actual rates to calculate savings, because obviously that's what you're spending. And then you pay 80% of the savings. The first payment's about 6 months after the contract's signed, then it's quarterly after that. And our bank makes us put in a minimum quarterly payment, but we put in the contract, if you don't save enough for the minimum quarterly payment, we write you a check for the difference in advance, so you can never be upside down. And savings go to the bottom line for years. And almost through, I'm going to hit this real fast, but we started this, I was vice chairman of deacons at Church of the Cross in Grapevine. And my pastor said, can you do our church? And I said, well, sure. And he said, well, I didn't know if you'd do anything this little. He said, I know your background. I said, our goal is giving back. He said, well, our whole complex is only 9 years old, it's built to be energy efficient, we have a great director of operations, and he said, there's probably no savings. But we looked at it and we said 25% basic savings, and he thought that was optimistic, and but 34% committed, and he thought that was a dream. But he said, how long do you think it's going to take you to get to the basic savings? That's about $2,000 a month. And I said, give us about 5 months. He said, what about committed? That's about $2,700 a month. I said, give us a little longer. Now, back then, we just started, we were 4 people. Now we're 150 something, but we were 4 back then. Anyway, you can see here, by month 5, we broke $2,000. By month 6, we're over 50% savings. It was a big deal to our church. Also, in addition to that, compressor failures went down. There were some other problems that went away. They had some areas that had never been able to get comfortable, and they were spending on service regularly that they quit having to spend because we made them comfortable. I had lunch with the head of finance right before COVID, and he said we're saving them 60% a year because of what we did. And which to our church is a big deal. You know, White's Chapel, biggest Methodist church in Texas, you can see by month 7, 8, 9, we were saving about $10,000 a month. FUMC Richardson was built to be the most efficient building you could build. It was only 5 years old. When I talked to the trustees there, one of the trustees stood up and he said, look, I build big buildings in Dallas. We built the most efficient building you can build. He said, people tour us to see how energy efficient it is. You can't save 46%. Then he turned to the other trustees, he said, still we can't lose, we're paying them less than we save, and so they approved it, and anyway, we hit the 46%. You know, and their, Sweetie had just done a major contract again, changing out chillers and lights and everything, and we said 21%, they thought that was optimistic. And you see we're up in the 30s here by month 6 and 7, and Stockdale, we're up in the 40s by the later months, and Franklin here, as a district as a whole, we're up in the 50s. A month 10, 11, and 12, which is a lot of money back to that district. But that's what we do. Here's back to your numbers, and you know the goals to come in and put $6.7 million basically back in your district. So what kind of questions do you have?
We basically had some discussion Monday afternoon among ourselves, so some of the questions have been answered. However, if does anyone have any question, feel free. Okay. Board, any questions, any comments? Okay. What do we think? Anybody wants to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the service agreement contract with Ideal Impact.
Ms. Wenzel makes a motion.
I'll second the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Ms. Apter, Ms. Reverend Irvin. Anyways, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion moved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you,
Looking forward to working with y'all.
and we
too.
know we have 2 campuses back there that we know we want to get started with right off the bat if we do it. She's smiling in the back, against the back wall with Margie Chumley and the high school, so we're excited. It's going to impact everybody, so.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we have to discuss possible action to approve resolution for Ideal Impact Payment Plan Agreement. Again, I need a motion if there is a question. Any questions as far as that?
No, sir.
Okay. Somebody make a motion on that? Item C. Or is it a payment
This
plan?
is, we don't have to read it as a resolution?
Yes.
Just convey- Okay,
We need to read the resolution.
No, not this
No.
one.
okay.
It's just a possible action approving a resolution for Ideal Impact Payment Plan. It's for payment plan.
For payment plan, which
Yeah.
is that we pay,
Okay. I
Part
just
of the
thought we had to
savings.
read resolutions, I don't know. I thought we did, yeah. Okay, so do I just need to read it?
I move to approve the following resolution.
Okay. I move to approve the following resolution for Ideal Impact Payment Plan Agreement.
Okay.
and then we read it? Okay.
Okay, I've got to make it really big, hang on a second.
I have it here, you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm going to get it really big.
I get to read all these whereases. Whereas Nacogdoches Independent School District has agreed by a separate agreement to acquire certain personal property and related services for an energy conservation project from Ideal Impact Incorporated, and whereas Nacogdoches Independent School District desires to enter into that certain Ideal Impact Payment Plan agreement dated as of July 25th, 2024, by and between Nacogdoches Independent School District and Ideal Impact Incorporated for the purpose of acquiring said energy conservation project, the district desires to designate the superintendent as an authorized signer of the agreement. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of the Nacogdoches Independent School District that the district enters into an Ideal Impact Payment Plan agreement with Ideal Impact Incorporated for the purpose of acquiring certain personal property and related services for an energy conservation project from Ideal Impact Incorporated. That the district designates the superintendent or superintendent's designee as an authorized signer of the Ideal Impact Payment Plan agreement dated as of July 25th, 2024, by and between the Nacogdoches Independent School District and Ideal Impact Incorporated. Make that
Miss-
motion.
Ms. Winslow made the motion.
Okay. And seconded by,
I'll second the motion.
okay.
Reverend Irvin. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion moves on. Thank you, Board, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is consideration of the board action resolution of the Nacogdoches ISD denouncing changes in Title IX.
President Rashid and Board, recently the United States Department of Education published a new Title IX regulations that take effect on August 1st, next week, 2024. On April 29th, the governor issued a letter indicating that the state of Texas would not comply with the United States Department of Education's efforts to rewrite Title IX. Additionally, the Attorney General Paxton has filed suit in federal district court seeking to postpone, hold unlawful, and set aside the new regulations. More than half of the states have filed similar suits opposing the USDE's proposal to Title IX rule. Texas takes seriously the rules guaranteeing all students equal access to effective and enriching educational programs regardless of sex, and has historically worked with the federal government regarding compliance with Title IX. Texas law protects children, including protection for participation in interscholastic athletic competition, and enforce policies that prohibit bullying, irrespective of subject matter. As the date approaches for the rule change, TEA will continue to monitor the Texas law suit and many others that have been filed around the country. While the underlying legality of the federal regulation remains in question, the Texas Education Agency will not take steps to implement the new federal regulation, and the agency shall comply with a version of the regulation that have been in effect since 2020. Texas school districts and charter schools seeking to receive grant funds from the Texas Education Agency should likewise comply with a version of the regulation that has been in effect since 2020. Developments in regulated litigation over Title IX confirm the guidance that both TEA and the governor have already given to date. You can see Texas versus Cordona, 4.23 CV 00604 ESCF number 37. The school districts in Texas are left with difficult positions after the federal government's expansion of Title IX combined with Governor Abbott's directive to the Texas Education Agency. Part of the action from Nacogdoches Independent School District will be seeking proper policy language from the Texas Association of School Boards to provide the district as well as schools around the state with proper protection in the policy manual. It's necessary to protect not only the locker rooms for our female athletes, but also the competitive nature of of women's sports. These issues are incredibly complicated, and we want to ensure our students are well taken care of, and we will make every effort to do that. But there are things we are reluctant to enforce, particularly when Governor Abbott has directed the Texas Education Agency not to do so. For the time being, Nacogdoches Independent School District will join Texas school districts in enforcing the Title IX regulations based on the 2020 guidance from the federal government.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Apple, will you make a motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the following resolution. Whereas on April 29th, 2024, Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent a letter to the President of the United States stating the executive branch has exceeded its constitutional authority in rewriting certain key aspects of Title IX. And whereas Governor Abbott has unequivocally directed the Texas Education Agency to ignore these changes, and whereas on April 29, 2024, the state of Texas sued the United States Department of Education to enjoin new regulatory requirements under Title IX that would expand the definition of sex to include an individual's self-professed gender identity. And whereas on April 30th, 2024, the Nacogdoches Independent School District provided communication to the Texas Association of School Boards indicating the district's intent to follow the governor's orders, and in turn, as a client of Texas Association of School Boards, requested that TASB promptly craft policies for adoption which reflect the same. And whereas on May 13th, 2024, the state of Texas filed an amended complaint with a motion for a stay of agency. And whereas on May 13th, 2024, the state of Texas filed an amended complaint including a request for preliminary injunction preventing implementation of the new rules and regulations. And whereas the Nacogdoches Independent School District is committed to providing a safe and secure learning environment for all students, and whereas Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 has historically served as a cornerstone in the protection of students from discrimination based on sex in educational programs and activities funded in part by the federal government. And whereas recent changes announced by the United States of America government's executive branch to Title IX regulations are set to take effect on August 1st, 2024, significantly altering the existing well-understood legal framework and potentially undermining the rights and protections of students. And whereas these changes attack the fundamental fabric of Title IX protections for daughters, wives, and mothers by transforming traditionally private or single-sex settings such as restrooms and locker rooms into unsafe spaces for biological women. And whereas these changes functionally eliminate long-standing and important Title IX protections for girls in competition events and sabotage objective fairness in interscholastic athletic activities. And whereas these changes may introduce confusion and ambiguity regarding the implementation and enforcement of Title IX, potentially jeopardizing the safety and well-being of students in Nacogdoches ISD, while placing even more undue burdens on teachers and staff, and whereas proposed penalties for noncompliance, including the withholding of federal funds, will prove detrimental to the district's entire student body, as nearly 80% of all Nacogdoches ISD students benefit from such funding. And whereas the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools are dedicated to upholding the principles of fairness, equality, and accountability in all aspects and facets of education. Now, therefore, let it be hereby resolved that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools denounce the recent changes to Title IX rules and regulations proposed at the whim of unelected administrative agencies and express their deep concern over the anticipated negative impact on our students and community, and that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools urge the leadership of the executive branch of government, including leadership of subordinate agencies that operate without accountability to the voters and taxpayers, to reconsider these changes and to engage in meaningful dialogue with stakeholders, including educators, administrators, parents, and students, to ensure that any modifications to Title IX and its implementing regulations uphold the fundamental rights and protections for biological girls and women, daughters, wives, and mothers alike, and that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools urge the elected Congress to enact legislation addressing these matters in a manner true to the original goals and intent of Title IX and acceptable to the vast majority of citizens, and that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees and Superintendent of Schools urge the judicial branch, wherever seated, to enforce constitutional balance and accountability, addressing the rogue actions of the executive branch and its unaccountable agencies, and that the Nacogdoches ISD Board of Trustees reaffirms its commitment to maintaining a safe and secure educational environment for all students, free from discrimination, harassment, and violence. That copies of this resolution be transmitted to Honorable Nathaniel Moran, United States Congressman for 1st Congressional District of Texas, Honorable John Cornyn, and Honorable Ted Cruz, United States Senators for the state of Texas, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, Mike Morath, Commissioner of the Texas Education Agency, the Texas Association of School Boards, and any and all other relevant national, state, and local elected officials and stakeholders in order to underscore the critical importance of this matter to the Nacogdoches ISD community and to seek support for the district's efforts to challenge the proposed changes to Title IX rules and regulations at the highest levels.
I second the motion.
I will third it.
I guess I'll have to go officially. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Good job,
Motion
Ms.
passed.
App.
Thank you, Ms. App.
Thanks for reading.
I gotta learn
Need
these
some more
names.
oxygen?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, Ms. Mandy?
Oh, well, after that, I move that we adjourn.
Okay. All in favor indicate saying aye.
Second the move, second the
Oh,
motion.
second motion.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor indicate aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We adjourn.
Thank you for that.